Mississauga. Tonight, police believe the blaze may have been suspicious.
Stay in the window 3 hours, look at everything. We cannot see each other anymore. I lost my best friend.
The latest on the investigation and what we've learned about the victims. And
it costs about $1.7 billion to order new trains.
So the subway was built in many cases 50, more and more years ago. So there is a constant repair program.
A major cash injection for the TTC. All 3 levels of government pledge big money to expand and repair Bloor Yonge Station.
He was the finest soccer writer in the English-speaking world.
A prominent American sports journalist dies while on assignment covering the World Cup. What we've learned about his death.
This is CBC Saturday News.
Hello, thanks for joining us. A fire early this morning in Mississauga has killed 2 people. Late this afternoon, Peel Police confirmed the homicide unit and Ontario Fire Marshal are now taking over the investigation as the blaze has been deemed suspicious. Clara Pasica has more from the scene.
Emergency vehicles lined this residential Mississauga street in the early hours of the morning, including at least 20 firefighters. They arrived just after 1 a.m. after a neighbor called, reporting smoke.
Firefighters forced entry into that unit and proceeded into the basement, which was where the fire was located, and sadly they've located and removed 2 victims who have both been pronounced at the scene.
The deputy fire chief says the one-alarm fire had mostly self-extinguished when crews arrived.
The fire damage itself is contained to the basement and is relatively minor.
First responders are not identifying the victims, but neighbors tell me that it was a couple in their 60s.
And I stay in the window 3 hours, look at everything. And I saw they bring the wife from the ambulance, the body wife from the ambulance to the funeral service car. And then they carry the husband, the second one. We cannot see each other anymore. I lost my best friend.
Other residents on Genovese Place said the couple loved to host family gatherings, often including neighbors too.
I have a granddaughter. She goes and used to play with her daughter's kids whenever they are coming here. Earlier there are so many people when their daughters got marriages, so I think they live alone. Otherwise every Saturday, Sunday they get together and have so many people are here. So I really feel sad.
Mississauga Fire says this weekend's fire is a stark reminder.
Unfortunately, November and December are our highest loss of life time of year for fires through a number of reasons: extra heating of houses, Christmas lighting decorations, use of candles, all kinds of different factors. But the most important thing is that people have a working smoke alarm and practice a home escape plan. People have a lot less time to escape a fire than they think. They need to be ready.
Mississauga police say there is reason to believe the circumstances surrounding the fire may have been suspicious. They have taken over the investigation. Clara Pasica, CBC News, Mississauga.
Well, still in Mississauga, police are identifying the victim of a deadly shooting that happened earlier this week at a roller rink. It was Wednesday night around 9:30 when gunshots rang out in the parking lot of Scooters. Police say 31-year-old Tristan Oldham from Toronto had serious injuries and died on scene. Police have yet to release a suspect description, but say the roller rink was busy at the time. Anyone with information is asked to contact police. And in downtown Toronto this afternoon, 4 people are under arrest after reports of an armed robbery that happened at a gold shop on Bloor Street.
Toronto Police received a 911 call for a robbery that was in progress. There were 4 suspects that entered the store, and information was that one was armed with a firearm. As the suspects exited the store, 3 were arrested. 1 fled on foot, but he was located a short distance away.
Police were called around 2 this afternoon. Officers say the arrests were part of a joint investigation with Peel and York Police and involve alleged robberies across the GTA. There was also a minor crash when the arrest happened, but police say there were no injuries. A concert will take place tonight in honor of a little girl who was hit and killed by a GO train in Mississauga this summer. Her family has started the Butterfly Project. It's a foundation to bring awareness around community safety. We spoke to her dad earlier this week.
She's the last girl of the family, but she's more like an angel. She talks like an adult. She's loving. She's peaceful. She has a sign to herself, and that is peace. Michelle may be small, but she has impacted the life of so many.
Today, Michelle Nwabo Oku would have turned 5 years old. The show is named the Butterfly Variety Show since it was the innocent act of chasing a butterfly that led to her death. Juno award-winning artist Julie Black is headlining the show. We'll show you some of that tomorrow night at 11. The TTC in the headlines this week yet again after another random violent attack. The mayor has said he'll be meeting with officials next week to talk safety. Well, meantime, there's been a big boost of funding for expansions and repairs. As Greg Ross shows us, critics say it's just a drop in the bucket and billions more is needed.
Transit advocates are applauding plans to upgrade the Bloor-Yonge station and the $500 million in costs the federal government is footing the bill for.
Bloor-Yonge Station is the busiest interchange in the entire TTC system. It's been seen as a choke point for crowds, especially during rush hour, honestly, for decades.
But as big as that station may be, this advocate says repairs there are only a small part of the overall work that the TTC subway line is in dire need of. He says much of Line 2 is completely outdated.
Just to take one example, on Line 2, the Bloor-Danforth subway, it's still running using the original signals and the original lights that were used for signaling trains since the 1960s, since it opened. Those need to be replaced.
He says the cost to do that alone would be well over $500 million. And he says once you replace the signals, you also have to replace the trains, which are nearly 3 decades old.
It costs about $1.7 billion to order new trains for the new longer Line 2.
Many other stations are also in need of maintenance and repairs.
Those problems haven't gone unnoticed by the people who use the subway system every day.
Some of the stations more core to the central downtown area are kind of getting run down.
The fact escalators often aren't working is a big problem.
I can certainly see the cosmetic things like broken tiles on the floor, or things like that. Dirt, it can be fairly dirty at times.
The subway was built in many cases 50, more and more years ago. So there is a constant repair program.
The mayor admits the city needs help to pay for those repairs.
The fact is we always need more. I mean, this is the biggest transit system in Canada by far. It's one of the biggest in North America, and we're getting some support, I will say, from the other governments to pay for infrastructure and repairs, but we need more.
The mayor says getting ridership back to pre-pandemic levels would also help. He says right now it's at about 70%. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
A windy one out there today. Our reporter Chris Glover out on a walk this morning with his pup Alice, sending us these shots. Gusty winds and icicle-covered branches at the beaches. And we hear it's only going to get worse. We're happy to report Sophia's back with This Weekend. You and Chris Glover, two of the hardest working people in the business, wouldn't you say?
I would say Chris is, for sure. Chris, thank you for those visuals. Yeah. You can hear and feel the gusty wind, and it is bitterly cold out there. Reunited, and it feels so good. Nice to be back with you, Shannon, as we were talking about a little dose of winter coming to pretty much everybody in southern Ontario, but who gets what really differs. Here's some shots of that wind speed that Chris showed us so great visually just a minute ago. Northeast wind, it's what's making it feel so cold out there, but a southerly flow will be coming in over the next little while. That bitter cold will be replaced with some snow. How does that sound? Layer up if you're headed out to the Leafs game. Chilly right now, feeling like -7. It'll warm up slightly though for the end of the game, just feeling like -5. With that southerly flow that will bring in Yes, snow. Okay, so let's calm all the excitement for a minute. This is not a winter storm by any stretch of the imagination. It will mean, though, snow on the ground when the kids wake up in the morning and yell snow. And yes, some of you will get to build a snowman, especially north of that 401, 407 corridor. For everybody else to the south and around the lake shores, this is going to be a slushy rain-snow mix that could impact your Sunday morning holiday festivity drive. I'll play out the timing for you in the long range and tell you about when that bullseye of the heaviest snow will come Sunday morning, along with that slushy rain-snow mix and when it ends. And there's a little sunshine to look forward to in the long range too, Shannon.
Okay, a little of everything. We'll see you shortly.
So let it bring. See you soon.
We are learning more tonight about a data breach of Ontario's COVID vaccine booking portal. Hundreds of thousands of people in the province may have had their personal information compromised. The Ministry of Health says its COVAX system was targeted in November 2021. Neil Herlin is tracking this one for us. Hey, Neil.
Shannon, they signed up for a COVID vaccine and they ended up with a surprise side effect. 360,000 people in Ontario are victims of a data breach. The target was COVAX, the computer system that registered who got a vaccine in the province. The breach happened in November 2021, but we're only learning about it now from the Ontario government. The province isn't revealing many details. It says it's working with the Ministry of Health, the Ontario Provincial Police, and Ontario's Privacy Commissioner to determine the scale and the impact of the breach. But 2 people have been charged in connection with the crime. One of the accused was a 21-year-old who lives in Ottawa and was an employee of the Vaccine Contact Centre. The other was a 22-year-old from Vaudreuil-Dorion. That's a suburb just outside of Montreal. Both were charged with unauthorized use of a computer. Now, the Ontario government says in more than 95% of the cases, only names and phone numbers were impacted. The government also says the vaccine booking system is regularly monitored and tested, and that the province is confident the system remains a secure tool. Shannon.
Thanks, Neil. It is the United Nations Human Rights Day with rallies happening around the world and close to home too, many in solidarity with the ongoing protests underway in Iran. As Jamie Strachan shows us, protesters in that country say they will not stop until the regime is brought down.
On UN Human Rights Day, voices around the world and in cities across Canada are speaking out against the Iranian regime.
They don't care about the life of the people. They just care about themselves. They are like a mafia in Iran.
This fear just turns to rage, and that would be double.
It's been 2 days since Mohsen Shakari became the first protester executed by Iran. Part of the protests that have spread to every corner of the country, posing serious challenges to the Iranian government. Human rights groups say Shakari was convicted after a quick show trial.
Obviously, the regime feels that bloodshed is a way to be able to scare off, and it's their response, which I actually think is going to backfire.
The protest began in September after 22-year-old Mahsa Amini died in custody after being detained by morality police for allegedly wearing her hijab improperly. Since then, according to Iranian human rights groups, nearly 500 protesters have been killed and thousands more detained as the Iranian regime scrambles to quell dissent and establish control. Experts say this unrest differs from past uprisings.
The youth that we're talking about, if we hear their slogans, they very clearly are saying, until death. Like, we will fight for this until death.
The Iranian regime is also being criticized by the international community for other issues, with the West condemning its entrenched military relationship with Russia.
Since August, Tehran has transferred hundreds of UAVs to Moscow, breaking international law. We're concerned that Russia intends to provide Iran with more advanced military components.
Iranians around the world and here in Canada are watching this all unfold, watching those back home fight for basic human rights, knowing that similar movements in the past have been brutally crushed, and hoping this time will be different. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. There is sadness and shock in the world of sports tonight. A well-respected American journalist has died while covering the World Cup. Chris Reyes has more on what we know so far and reaction.
A photo of American sports writer Grant Wahl sits at his empty press seat inside Lusail Stadium in Qatar. The 48-year-old died on Friday while covering the Argentina-Netherlands match. He collapsed.
The medical team were there pretty quickly and, were able to, as best they could, give treatment.
Qatar's World Cup organizers say Wahl was treated in the press area for about 25 minutes before being transferred to hospital. He did not survive. The 48-year-old was considered the top soccer journalist in the U.S. and a well-known figure in sports journalism.
He was the finest soccer writer in the English-speaking world, and that was something that was widely thought and believed.
NBA star LeBron James also paid his tributes. Wahl wrote a Sports Illustrated article on the basketball star when James was still a teen.
It's a tragic loss. It's unfortunate to lose someone as great as he was. I wish his family, like I said, the best.
Wahl had spoken publicly about feeling ill while covering the tournament, saying he got checked at the medical clinic in the main media center on Monday and was told he may have bronchitis. Wahl's wife, Dr. Celine Gounder, tweeted, "I am so thankful for the support of my husband, Grant Wahl's soccer family, and of so many friends who've reached out tonight. I'm in complete shock." A U.S. State Department spokesperson said they're working with Qatari authorities to fulfill the wishes of Wahl's family. Wahl's cause of death has not been released. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
Meantime, on the pitch, history made at the Men's World Cup. Morocco is the first African nation to make the semifinals of the 92-year-old tournament. The Moroccan community in Mississauga going wild. Morocco, who have been the underdog since the beginning, beat Portugal 1-0 to take the win. They face France in the semis. Here's something to make Canada feel a little better about its loss. Both the teams that advanced out of its group stage, Morocco and Croatia, have reached the semifinals, proving just how fierce the competition was. It has been a long time since Canada had two NBA teams, but it was once a reality. A new documentary is now pulling back the curtain on the rise and fall of the Vancouver Grizzlies.
I was just 6 years old when the Grizzlies came to Vancouver, and I was completely obsessed with the team. I just loved watching them win or lose, which was a good thing, because they lost a lot.
The Grizzly Truth is directed by Kathleen Jamie. It premiered at the Vancouver International Film Festival and won Best Documentary at the Real Asian Film Festival. The Grizzlies were in Vancouver from '95 until 2001 when they moved to Memphis. The reason for that move still isn't clear. Jamie and former players who took part in the film are in Toronto today promoting a screening in the city.
I've spent the past decade dreaming about this film, the past 7 years making it, and I've left no stone unturned to uncover the Grizzly truth.
I know when I was a kid, watching basketball in Washington, D.C., so her love for the Vancouver Grizzlies and even basketball herself. So, wondering why the team wasn't there to as she grew up was always something in her mind, and she definitely went out and got the right people together to tell the story of the Grizzly truth.
Francis and the other players took part in an autograph session and put on a basketball clinic for young kids. He says it's important to do things like this for children who may not have seen basketball as an option outside of the U.S. Well, it is time for a short break. Stay with us. We're back in 3 minutes. Toronto's new version of the Monopoly board game was tested by a group of young people today and their competitor, the mayor.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhibition place. I think I'll buy that for $140. This is my money here. 100.
Members of Youth Becoming Leaders joined Mayor Tory at O'Connor Community Centre to play around. For each game sold, a portion of the proceeds goes to 11 charities, including the Sick Kids Foundation, United Way, and the Jays Care Foundation. The game includes iconic Toronto landmarks such as the CN Tower, Ripley's Aquarium, and Eaton Centre. Speaking of icons, R&B superstar Mariah Carey is bringing her holiday magic to Toronto. The show's called Merry Christmas to All, and at Friday's show, she also brought back some classics. That was Fly Like a Bird at last night's concert. She's only performing in Toronto and New York this season, so a huge treat for Mariah fans across the GTA, with the Scotiabank stage decked out in presents, nutcrackers. It wouldn't be a holiday special, of course, without a sparkly snow-like gown. It's happening again tomorrow night at Scotiabank for Mariah's second and final show. And it sounds like you're coordinating the weather for the Queen herself.
Of course, she's bringing winter and Christmas into the house. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas after all those iconic songs. And if you have an extra ticket, anybody out there, I would love to go with you.
Send it to Sophia.
The snow will follow Mariah's stint in Toronto Sunday morning. We will look quite winter-like and Christmas-like across the GTA. Only a trace for those of you kind of from Cornwall to Ottawa. You're sort of covered by high pressure. Cottage country, you could have snowman making snow by the time the kids wake up on Sunday morning, and for everybody else, a slushy and slick Sunday morning drive to any of your holiday festivities. Here's how it all slices out. It's a fast-moving cold front that will slice through southern Ontario. Saturday overnight, the first snowfall comes in, along with a southerly flow that will start bringing in that slushy rain-snow mix. It's Sunday morning that the bullseye of the heaviest snow will be slowly falling as you wake up and have your morning coffee, and just tapering to flurries by the time you head into your afternoon, along with a cooler northeast wind, which will mean that 5 to 10 centimeters for many of you, sort of Milton to Kingston along that 401, 407 corridor, will stick, especially up to cottage country, where it will be cold enough and crisp enough for that snow to stick on the ground. For everybody else, it's melting, it's above the freezing mark, and it's slushy and slick, and it's already coming in right now. And then the rest of the week really is not shaping up to be too bad after we get past kind of a chilly Sunday afternoon. Monday is around seasonal, maybe a bit below, but folks, you've got that elusive December sunshine Monday, Tuesday, even into Wednesday, before the next snowmaker comes into play Thursday into Friday. Potentially, it's still a long way out. For those of you in the eastern half of the country, we've got high pressure in place and lovely sunshine, but it is going to be cold, not only there, but in cottage country. And for you right now, if you're coming out of the Leafs game, dress warm. It's going to feel like -5, Shannon.
Okay, thanks, Sophia. We'll see you again tomorrow night.
See you tomorrow, everyone.
And a little reminder about Sounds of the Season. It runs all month long, raising food and funds to support local food banks. So far, we've raised more than $482,000. If you'd like to make a donation in person next Saturday, I'll be at the Civic parking lot across from Pickering Town Centre with some of my colleagues. Hope to see you there.